times get hard, and we're here to help at NorthPoint.
Hello, welcome to another episode of NorthPoint Making Health Happen. My name is Lisa Castile, your host for the program. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This series is being brought to you by NorthPoint Health and Wellness Center. We want to connect you with topics in health and wellness that impact our community. And we want to provide you with practical tips and resources you can use. On this podcast, we like to explore the connections between health, healing, and the systems that shape our daily lives. Today, we're talking about something fundamental, housing stability. A safe and stable home isn't just a place to live. It's one of the most powerful social determinants of health. When individuals and families have secure housing, they're more likely to thrive physically, mentally, and emotionally. We'll hear from Aliyah Primus, NorthPoint Health and Wellness Center's Housing Stability Manager, and how housing affects community well-being, the challenges residents face, and the collaborative work being done to create pathways to stability. Together, we'll explore how NorthPoint and its partners are helping our neighbors find not just housing, but hope. Let's dive in. Aliyah, welcome.
Thank you
So
for
good
having
to have
me.
you here.
I'm so glad to be invited.
Oh,
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I have to take a moment to say that introduction that all of you hear for our Making Health Happen podcast is actually written, composed by Aliyah, who is a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Aliyah, tell us just a little bit about that. You wrote that song how long ago now?
Oh, wow. It's been 12 years.
12
Let me see.
years.
11 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that come to be?
So the CEO at the time, Stella Whitney West, used to have people come up, and if they were a new employee, she would say, okay, you guys come up, introduce yourself, what department you work for, and then you have to sing the NorthPoint song.
Oh, my
Well,
goodness.
at that time, it was a joke to make
Okay.
everyone really nervous, like, oh my God, I don't want to go up. But I had the idea of like, maybe we should really have a NorthPoint song.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how it came about. We did a competition called NorthPoint Idol
Okay.
and pulled people together, and we had groups perform, and ultimately that ended up being
The
NorthPoint
NorthPoint
song.
song. We love that song.
I
So
love
you
that.
wrote it. Did you play any of the instruments on that? Because you're a drummer,
I
right?
did not. I drum a little. I'm not a
drum a little.
professional drummer, but I do love to play drums.
Okay. All right. Well, we are going to talk a little bit about housing stability, but first I want our audience to know a little bit about you. So you've been with NorthPoint for 10 years, right? And you were born and raised in North Minneapolis.
Absolutely.
Were you a Polar?
No, I went to Edison.
Oh my goodness! I'm sorry, Polar Nation.
I know, I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
All right, but you came to do this important work because you were inspired by your own life experiences. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
And you are a certified life coach and home ownership advisor.
Mhm.
Girl, what is a life coach?
Well, it's really just someone who you can talk to, kind of like a therapist, but we're
Okay.
not therapists, but to be able to kind of sift through the things that we go through and the things that we're facing and barriers, and just try to provide some perspective on maybe what it is that, someone could be going through and struggling with. And sometimes we really have our own solutions. And so being able to have someone to talk to, I think is important. And just setting goals, I think accountability is a
Okay.
big part of that.
Okay.
And so that's very similar to the work that we do. And so I
Sure.
bring that experience over to the housing sector and really helping people just kind of focus it in on what it is that they want, how they want to see their lives kind of play out, and then just setting goals to reach that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us. I would like to know a little bit more about your home ownership advisor work that you do. Could you share a little bit about that, and how did you come to that, Aliyah?
Actually, so when I started at NorthPoint, I was just doing the prevention work, so helping people stay in their homes.
Sure.
And prior to that, I was more in administrative roles. And so, we started the housing program here, and then I just kind of thought about the continuum of care and the support that we can provide going from renting, and then what does that look like long term? So if we're looking at long term stability, to me that represents home ownership, right?
Sure.
And so that's a stronger foundation. There's a lot more time that goes by. Even if you were to fall behind, there's more options and time before you're actually put out.
Okay.
From being, the difference between being a homeowner and a renter. And so I took a break from NorthPoint, and I left for 2 years because I really wanted to explore that as a long-term option for families. And so I became a HUD certified homeownership advisor.
Okay. And for those listening, what is HUD?
So it is the Housing Urban Development.
Yes. Housing Urban Development Corporation,
yes.
I think is what HUD is.
Yes, and so that's the federal agency that kind of manages housing.
Okay.
And, there's a home ownership aspect of that.
Okay.
And so I became certified to be able to teach home ownership classes and to help prepare people and to meet with them one-on-one and kind of talk about the steps that they need to take to become mortgage ready.
Okay.
And so, and I love that work.
Where do you find the time? You've got a family, you write music.
That's such a small part of what I do. Yes, but I do love the work. And so trying to connect those two things I think is very important and kind of a mission that I have while I'm here at NorthPoint to help kind of build out the program in that direction.
Okay. Well, you're obviously very passionate about your work. That's your why. That's what makes you show up every day to serve this community, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, well, let's get into it. So tell me, as a housing stability manager, what do you do?
So I really kind of step back and look at the impact that we're having on the community and how we can help support them reach their goals.
Okay.
And so it's managing staff and making sure that those on the front lines are equipped and that we have the resources available, kind of establishing programming to make sure that we're reaching and meeting the needs of the community as they come in. And so that's really about making connections in terms of providing the wraparound support. So it's not just about the housing, it's also really about what supports that housing.
Sure.
So it's the financial aspects, and so that also includes income, right? And so if there's education and training that needs to happen to help people increase their ability to maintain their housing, right? So it's making those connections so that we can do that. So it's kind of taking a step back and kind of connecting the dots. Like, how can we help people stay housed, and what is it that's needed? A lot of times, it's not just about the income. If life happens, it's, if you can't work, everything stops, right? And so I think looking at housing as health, I think is important to kind of shift the focus, because it's not just about, people work all the time, but life is going to happen. It's just a matter of when and if we're prepared for that. And so I think having the supports to kind of address, wherever the gaps are in support, I think is really important. So that's kind of my role, is to look at our programming and be able to say, okay, this is what's missing here, or we are looking down the road at home ownership as an option, and how can we implement that and prepare people for that.
Okay.
It impacts the community overall.
So you're doing a lot of empowerment work in our community with our residents and our guests.
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
So tell me, here at NorthPoint, how do we define housing stability? What does that look like?
Housing stability is not just about safe housing, but I think it's about consistency, a sense of safety, control over their living situations. And we see housing stability as a foundation to everything else. And so kind of, as I mentioned before, if you don't have stable housing, how can you focus in on your health? How can you focus in on your mental health even? And so I think we're trying to provide the supports to allow people to live a life that's full. And so I think we focus in on just having the open door to be able to provide support, access, resources, information, so that people can live that life fully.
Okay, all right. From a leadership perspective, what are some of the biggest challenges you see facing our community when it comes to housing stability?
I think for me, the biggest thing now is a lack of affordable housing options. rent prices have increased so much that it's really hard to even, make sure that we have the resources to be able to help as many people as possible, because if you're paying $2,000 in rent, you get behind for 2 months, that's a big chunk of money that we have to, exactly. And so I think any misstep for any family could be crucial.
Yeah,
and
devastating.
Absolutely. And so I think, we really need to just provide that support. And I think some of the major challenges that we're facing are historic, right? And so systematic inequities and, things that have happened so long ago, we're still feeling the impacts of those things. And so there's been so many limited opportunities for families of color and, for people of color. So there's so many barriers that we're facing. I think that's the reason why we kind of take the approach of providing the wraparound services. It's not one thing.
Right.
In my class, I typically say, 1 month of rent or even 2 is not going to change anyone's life.
Yeah.
We have to look beyond that and try to think about, what are the things that we can address to help people overcome these barriers, and not just individually, but as a community. And so I think representation is a big thing. Advocacy, getting, our voices being heard in terms of what's happening in our community. So reaching out into our local government officials and having discussions, showing up, at the meetings and being heard. I think that's really important. And so that's the way that, we're really trying to be involved and, allow others to better understand the role that we can play and how impactful that can be.
Yeah, so there's something very empowering about investing yourself in the process, right? Not
Absolutely.
just leaving it in the hands of other people. Yeah, that's someone so-and-so is going to take care of that.
Yeah.
But knowing that you need to get out there
Absolutely.
and take care of it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. I think, so many times we take a back seat.
Yes.
Just assuming that someone else is going to speak for us or that they know better, or that, it's funny how things play out, in the government when your voice isn't heard, and then you're like, what? How could they allow that to happen?
Absolutely.
It's like, because you didn't say anything.
Right.
Not enough people spoke up to say, no, we don't want this, or we're not going to take this.
Right.
And so I think that's important to understand the power of our voice.
Can I ask you, do you see this changing at all, this landscape? You talked about affordable housing, and man, we're here in Minnesota. I'm looking around, I'm seeing new construction all the time. What is it going to take for us to get housing in the nice neighborhoods around the state, for people who need it, who cannot afford necessarily, like you said, the $2,000 a month?
Yeah.
I mean, do you see that changing at all?
Oh, my goodness. Now I question that. I do have hope that it can change. But I mean, looking at things as they are, right, and, the current administration and just kind of, financially just kind of where we are as a country. And, the government, the federal government would have to see it as a priority, right? And so I think that's where our voice is being heard, even on the local level, and just push it, as far as we can.
Sure.
I think that's really important. I do see that there is a lot of potential, right? And the new construction is happening, and so there's affordable housing being created. I think a big part of that is associated with seniors, right? And so the baby boomers retiring, and so that's the bigger focus, honestly. But I think, where families are concerned, I think the more that we kind of highlight, the need for affordable housing and just kind of keep it in the forefront of the conversations, I think that we can see change.
Sure. So when I was eligibility worker, we did a lot of work around Section 8. Curious to know what's happening with Section 8 right now. Is that going to go away?
I don't know.
So many unknowns right now.
I know there's so many unknowns.
People want to be prepared, though. Well, how can we prepare ourselves for this changing climate with at a federal level? We're seeing things happen.
Absolutely.
What can we do to brace ourselves?
Yeah, I really think I think the number one thing is to kind of look at where we are and kind of cut the fat. Like, what can we do to kind of pull back of doing the extras? Because when there's an unknown, I think, to make one of the things that can bring us more peace and a sense of control is controlling what we have control over, right? And so that is our finances, right? And so we get to say where our money goes and, how much of it we're going to spend. And so I think that's a big part of it, is kind of just looking at the resources that we have and being good stewards over that. And then from there, saving, planning, I think we're stronger together. And so I think, neighborhood associations, civic groups, churches, whatever, coming together.
Getting connected in those.
Getting connected.
Okay.
Yep. So no man is an island, and we can't do this work on our own.
Right.
And I think being connected is a big part of us being able to survive these tumultuous times. And so I think my advice would be to connect. If that's your family, get together as a group and start having conversations about, okay, as things change, like me and my family have conversations about, storing food if for some reason, we don't have access. Solar power, generators, things like that. And so we've really started to plan, and that's important, just to kind of think about having a plan for, if and when something happens, that we're prepared.
Right. And I see, different groups, different cultures who they actually get together and they buy.
Absolutely.
They buy houses.
Yes.
They bring their families and there's generational living
and
going on in these houses, but they're building up their community.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think that's an amazing model.
Absolutely. I talk about that in one of my classes, is just to, for our community, I really think it's important for us to get to that place. I think it's a place where we struggle, and that's historic, right?
Yep.
And set up that way. And so I think we would have to make a choice to overcome what's historic, and to say, okay, that was what it was, and now we're here, and where do we want to go as a community? And so I think that's important, to make those connections. If it just starts with our family, and if you don't have family that's on the same page, it's other groups. It's find one person where you have, your values aligned, and you have a vision that's similar, and start working towards that. And so I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So can you share a success story or initiative that shows the positive impact of these types of efforts that you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different stories, but I think one of the ones that comes to mind is there was a mother that came to NorthPoint, and she was behind on her rent. She had lost a job, but when she came, she actually did have another job lined up. And so we were able to help her stay housed. She had multiple children in the household, so that was really, really important. And so I think that the barrier was that transition from going from not working to having a job but not getting paid for weeks
a couple
out.
weeks.
Exactly. And so she wouldn't have a check to be able to maintain her housing during that time, and so we were able to step in. But also being able to, solve that problem for the moment, but also look ahead. I mean, the amount of rent that she was paying was a mortgage, right? And so we started having the conversation about, do you want to? Absolutely, right? And so, and not everyone wants that, but to have the conversation, let's just have the conversation, ask the question, and then kind of build out from there. And so she had the goal of home ownership.
Okay.
And I think part of the facing eviction kind of triggered that desire to have more control over her housing.
Sure.
And, for her family, and being able to pass that on and to build wealth. And so we were able to help her map out the steps to become mortgage ready.
Okay.
And so, addressing credit issues and barriers and, any collections, any negative things that could, be a barrier for her, we were able to address those. And right now she is looking for a home.
Oh my gosh.
Accessing down payment assistance resources that are available, and she's shopping for her dream home.
Wonderful.
I know.
Sometimes it's that fear that holds us back from achieving these goals that we have in our lives, right?
Absolutely.
And just being open to sitting down with somebody and being transparent. Like there's there's no judgment in this,
No.
right? We're here
We're
at
all-
NorthPoint to help you.
Absolutely.
Right? We have that commitment in our community. Come in, talk to somebody.
mhm.
You know,
It's not
start the
gonna hurt.
process.
Yes.
Find the resources that you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. So what is there something that gives you hope about this addressing housing instability in our community? What are you hopeful about?
I am hopeful. I think when I see the resilience of families, you know, coming in and overcoming barriers, number one, it's a big deal to come and ask for help, you know, like you
It
mentioned.
is.
So we have to say that, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
This is a safe place. And so I think it gives me hope for people. And a big part of the things that we're seeing is single mothers with children,
Yeah.
right? Raising children on their own. And that's a big task. And so for them to come in and ask for help, is key, right?
Yeah.
And so we're able to support them in that way. And so it gives me hope to know that if a mother is taking that step and doing everything that she can to provide whatever the children's needs are, stable housing, food, clothing, health care, all those things, and for us to have the resources to be able to help support her in that, that means we're impacting the next generation.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that gives me hope, you know, and to know, you know, that that's the reason why we do the work, and it's the reason why I show up every day. And it just, you know, gives me a fight, you know, for the community, for the mothers and the children and, you know, even the men in the community, just in general, to say, if you're willing to fight, I'm willing to fight with you.
Absolutely.
You know, and so that's what being here at NorthPoint and doing this work is about.
I'm wanting to address too, we talked about, you know, the single mothers, but we also have, you know, some of our brothers who have faced incarceration and they come out.
Absolutely.
And they can't find stable housing.
Yes.
Do we have resources for them as well?
We do. We've made
Okay.
some connections with some other agencies, right? And so, you know, like I said, no agency alone can solve this problem. We have to connect. We have to partner because there's things that we do well and there's things that, you know, other agencies do
Right,
well. And so
right.
I think partnership is key. And so we've made some partnerships with other agencies that really focus in on supporting men. So Ujamaa Place is one of those. We work with Build Wealth and PPL and PRG. And so there's a lot of different agencies that we try to connect with to kind of give a holistic approach and provide the resources for, you know, men, women, children. I mean,
Absolutely.
it just doesn't matter. We really want to be able to touch the lives of people overall. And so we'll continue to expand that work and build those connections so that people don't have to kind of run around and try to figure out what the other agencies do. If we come together, it's going to make it easier overall.
Absolutely.
To have a
Absolutely.
greater impact.
So, for someone listening, to our listeners, what's your come on down message? What are you telling them to come on down to NorthPoint and we can what?
Well, kind of like the song, like we can help you reach your dream. You know, if everyone has a dream, right? And so everyone wants to be healthy. Everyone wants to be strong. Everyone has a dream, a goal, a reason. And so, you know, we're really here to partner with people. We're not the complete answer. We can't do anything for you, but we can partner with you to make sure that you have, you know, the things that you need. And so whether we provide it or there's another agency that provides it, we're really trying to kind of, you know, handhold, you know, all together as a community and provide resources and support for people in need.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Aliyah. You know, today's conversation reminds us that housing is more than shelter. I think you said it best. You referred to housing as health, right?
Absolutely.
It's the foundation for health, dignity, and opportunity. And at NorthPoint, we're proud to work alongside community partners to help families build stability and break cycles of insecurity. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely.
So if you or someone you know needs support with housing or you'd like to connect with available resources, visit NorthPoint Health and Wellness Center or reach out to one of our community partners. And until next time, Residence begins with connection, and every strong community starts with a stable home. Thank you, Aliyah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being
having
here.
me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this week's Making Health Happen. We want you to know that we're here to partner with you and to help make health happen in your life. To learn more about NorthPoint, call us at 612-543-2500 or visit us on the web at northpointhealth.org.